This is the Draft Guys podcast with Peyton and Niko, and we're coming at you today with a very, very, very special episode. We're down the rabbit hole now, only a week out from the NFL draft for 2026. So we get to do something a little bit more fun instead of all the scouting that we've been doing. Today, it's TDG's All Sleepers episode, and we're going to tell you all about it. I am your host, Niko Chambers, alongside my co-host, PDunn. PDunn, how's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm stoked for this one. This is a fun one. Like you said, you put in all the work and you scout the deeper players. We're now at 150 players, so we're able to do this. We're able to talk about these rounds, three, four, five, six guys that are going to go, and the ability of choosing who we think is the value in that range. And that's what today's exercise is about.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll tell you a little bit of background about what we're trying to accomplish here and what really the rules are because we have a criteria and a logic behind everything that we do. Starting off, we are using the consensus big boards from NFL mock draft databases to collect data here. So the rules for the criteria, number one, the players that we select for these sleeper teams, they cannot be within the top 45 of that big board. Of course, number two, they can't be top two at their positions on that consensus big board. And that's the cool thing about it because it's going to take us to our logic where we're going to have to explain the sleepers and we're building a team 11 on 11 for both sides of the ball. So me and Pete Dunn are going to square off offense, defense, defense, and offense. And we're going to explain why these guys are our sleepers. And we have to, of course, build in to the formations that we're going to run, which we're running two very different formations. The way that it worked is we both had to declare what offensive formation we had to run, as you do in the NFL, and then the defensive one followed. So that's the cool thing about it. We did throw in the draft guys tax, which is a really cool thing where obviously there's some guys that we're super, super high on throughout this process. And we're going to take the consensus out of it. And we're allowing one of those players to be highlighted in the graphic here. And we're going to see whose team is better at the end of it. I'm so excited. I think this is going to be a great concept. And we're going to get into it. And we're going to start with P Dunn's offense. So P Dunn, you're running what type of personnel today?
Yeah, I'm running an 11 personnel, keeping it pretty simple. I feel like in today's day and age of football, anything other than that is more of a sub package. This is the base stuff that these NFL teams run, and this is what I would run in this situation. Obviously, one running back, one tight end. And so getting into it a little bit here, my captain is Cade Klubnik. I think he's the leader of this team, leader of this offense. I've talked about him before. I think he's really underrated in this quarterback class, which says a lot because it's not a good quarterback class. I think he's the only guy outside of Jalen Daniels that has starting upside down the board here and legit starting upside. I think there is a Purdy-esque curve that is possible here with Klubnik. And I like him a lot. I like the way he processes things. I like the way he wins with his arm most of the time. There's some question marks in there. There's a reason he's at 68 on my big board. But getting into these other guys, Malachi Fields, this is your prototypical X receiver, right? And so looking at these other guys, Branch, Bell, Claire, the way I went around performing and putting together this room is you've got different aspects in each receiver. So Malachi Fields is your high floor player at that receiver position that's going to give you a lot of really good reps and be kind of your safe target. Zachariah Branch, obviously your deep threat. Skylar Bell working out a slot is more of your route runner, and Max Clare as well is going to be more of your route runner, more polished player. Le'Veon Moss, kind of wanted to take a swing on a guy. He's the guy that I think has the most upside. He is injury plagued for sure. That is something that he has struggled with through his college career. But when he's healthy, I like the burst at that size. I like the way that he moves. It's weird to comp him to a player in the own class, but there's some Jadarian Price there, and the way that you see the weight, you're like, oh, you don't look like you should move the way that you move, like visually speaking. So those are my skill position players. Getting into the offensive line here, pretty excited to talk about these guys. Tiernan was for sure my favorite guy on this list. I have been literally since our last big board episode, I am higher on him than I was then. This dude's pass protection is just so good. I'm so impressed with him in pass pro. At that left tackle position, it's pretty fascinating to see in today's day and age a true pass protector that you worry about in the run game. That's a pretty crazy thing to say. Usually it's the opposite. It's like, okay, I know you can run. I know you're physical enough to handle the run, but Can you pass protect? And this dude is the opposite. And so I'm all over that at that value. I can put some weight on you, teach you how to freaking run block. The hard part's pass protection, and he knows how to do that. Robert's a guy that I think is vastly underrated right now. This is probably pound for pound one of the strongest guys in the class. This dude is an absolute monster. I've watched him more recently since our last Big Board episode came out, and I fell in love with the player. The play strength is ridiculous. Slaughter, we talked about him on our last episode. Another guy that I'm higher on than I used to be. I think I'm just gonna trust the tape from before last year and trust that last year was a down year, especially in a class that I don't really love the center class this year. This is a guy that I'm willing to take a swing on that's not one of my top two centers available. Billy Stroud, Emil Wagner, both on the right side of this offensive line. I think they're both really, really good. Both high floor players. Stroud, obviously, the headliner is can he stay healthy? Emil Wagner didn't play great against the Miami defensive ends. Who's going to when they started the season? But other than that, had a really steady season at right tackle. So that's my offense. How are you going to defend this?
So I love this. I think this is going to be great for my team and what I've created. I think that this is a very beatable team that you
Oh,
put together. I'll throw it out there, and of course, we're doing sleepers. So I really like Tiernan. I'll talk about that. I was very tempted to go Slaughter. Ironically enough, we've done all this. We did all the work on our own. We had like three guys that we overlapped with throughout all 22 each guys.
interesting.
So that is unbelievable. I'm shocked we didn't go. We'll look back on the first page. I won't spoil it. You'll have to wait till the end of the episode to see what I did on offense. But there is a guy on this page. There's two guys on this page that we have an overlap in. Other than that, we are pretty much different all around the board. I'm actually interested. I want to ask you one thing. I honestly think that in my scouting report, I thought that Max Clare was more of a developmental inline tight end. You seem to not think so. So tell me why.
I think that he is the most polished pass catcher, excuse me, in this class at the tight end position. The route running's fantastic, and I'm trusting the Purdue tape from the year before. That was when he really was a really good pass catcher in that offense. And Ohio State took him in and they put weight on him, and they put big weight on this guy to have him be a better blocker. So you've seen him be a really good blocker. You've seen him be an above average blocker, I'd say, this year at that tight end position, and you've seen him be a really good receiver. This guy is a Swiss Army knife. What do you want from him? You can be a really good inline tight end. That's more of a blocking guy. You can also have him be a really good receiver. I'm trusting on the receiver aspect of things. This is a guy that I've continued to rise on throughout this whole process and might have a first round grade by the time Thursday rolls around.
That is unbelievable. We're so close to the NFL draft. It's so crazy to think about. And I'll tell you exactly how I am going to combat this. And it's going to start with my draft guys, Tax, one of my favorite players in this class. It's going to be Keldrick Folk. I'm going to get him on this team. He's going to be my captain. There's no doubt about it. You look at the consensus. Oh, you're like, maybe, all right, 20 to 11. That isn't a lot. It is a lot, especially when I've had him somewhere ranked. I think he was ninth in my first big board. Like, there is a big drop off for where people have him ranked and where I have him ranked. I have him much higher. He's going to play my left defensive end role. And I think we're going to go with Lee Hunter here. Another guy who had a lot of steam at the beginning, kind of towards the combine, didn't have the greatest combine, kind of steamed off a little bit. And now he's back in the mix for me. He's my nose tackle too, number 36 on my board. He's the number 49 on the consensus. If there's anybody, he's probably one of the more higher consensus guys that's on the sleepers team at all. But I have to put him here to consume two gaps as a nose tackle because that's my plan here to combat what you have with Slaughter in the center and then some other guys who I think are a little bit weaker. I don't know if some of these guys are going to be able to consume Lee Hunter. I know that Slaughter won't be able to. Maybe Stroud, maybe Roberts will be able to. I think that's what you're trying to accomplish here with Roberts as the big man. But I'll talk about Caden Curry, though. I think Caden Curry is the hand in dirt defensive end that I need here in my 3-3-5 system that I am running, which ironically, I'll spoil it right now. We're both running nickel packages, which is interesting to see. That's why it's 3, 3, and 5. That fifth defensive back is going to be the nickel player. But here, this is the hand and dirt guy. If you're going to be running a 3-4, 3-3-5, you need that player. This could have been LT Overton. This could have been Wesley Williams, but it's going to be Caden Curry for me. I just think that he is the redirector. He's massive. He's got super strong hands. And that's what I'm hoping to do with him. 130 on my board at defensive end, number 10. He's 147 on the consensus. I mean, Slept on, like so slept on. We'll move on to what I'm going to do with my linebackers. And yeah, this is what I'm really, really proud of. Josiah
Mm.
Trotter, my green dot in the middle, no doubt about it. Linebacker five for me on my list. He's coming in at consensus 61, which is interesting because I don't think he's going to be a late second round player. I think he's going to be an early to mid, one of the better linebackers. And with his family bloodline and history, he's going to be an unbelievable NFL player. Will versus Sam. You can talk about it here in terms of the linebackers. I'm putting Gabe Bacchus as a Sam linebacker. I think his skill set is more stable to match the run
Yeah.
and match those tight ends and those running backs on passing sets. And I think that the Will linebacker can be Joshua Josephs. Since I'm running a nickel package here, essentially, he's not going to have to drop back as much as if I wasn't doing that. Because that's really what the Will has to do. But he's going to be pass rushing mainly as kind of that fourth defensive lineman for me in my system. I'm super high on him as well. Edge number six for me coming in at number 60. He's 85 on consensus. Huge value there. Yeah, it's going to be a bunch of fun. We'll move on here to my secondary and how I'm really going to guard your guys. You got Zachariah Branch in that Z spot. And I got a player, Julian Neal. He's going to blanket him across the middle. Anything that Zachariah Branch does across the middle, Julian Neal's going to have it. He may have trouble if Zachariah Branch is going on go routes or anything towards the sidelines, but I trust Julian Neal to cut that center of gravity down towards the middle. Kyle Lewis is going to be my big nickel. He is going to cover the Skylar Bell player that you put there in the slot. He can do it all. He can blitz, drop back cover. He can do a lot of different things. Malik Muhammad, I'm going to put him on the boundary. He is going to deal with Malachi Fields and everything that they have going on there. I'm super excited to see what that matchup could be like and just that physical press nature. AJ Halsey is going to be my center fielder here at free safety. I just think it's an unbelievable thing. He's one of the better deep zone coverage safeties, if you will, or defensive backs, really. He's one of the best in the class. Zakee Wheatley is a guy that I actually rank as a nickelback, but he's just going to be a flailer flyer at the strong safety position. He can help out with what Gabe Bacchus has going on, maybe cover the Max Clare inline situation. But I am certain that this team matches up super well versus your team. We'll look at it. PDunn, how do you feel about that analysis?
So here's my thoughts. When I was building this offensive line, I built this around a real, like I talked about with Tiernan, like I talk about outside of all four of these players except for Roberts, all four of these guys, their specialty is pass protection. That's what they're really good at. So I built this team with the intention of them being really good pass protectors. And you bought Keldrick Falk, Lee Hunter, and Caden Curry. Those guys are not specialty in pass protectors or pass rushers at all, especially, I mean, any of them. They don't do that. So that's good for me. And so I understand I'm not going to be able to run the ball. That's probably not going to happen against this front. But again, for your side, is you did choose a really good secondary that is also really good in coverage. Malik Muhammad is one of the best cover corners in this class. Wheatley, I feel the same about. AJ Halsey's fantastic on the back end, and Kyle Lewis is a monster out of the slot. So that's where I kind of differ. I just don't think you're going to be able to get pressure on Klubnik in this situation. And that's where he specializes. His specialty is when you give him time to dissect the defense. Another quarterback that would be really good in this offense would be Beck if you give them time in that pocket. The pressure on them. I don't think you're going to be able to get pressure on this team. And I think these receivers are too good. They're going to get open too often.
How are you going to combat my linebacker core?
Um, I don't know. Most of these guys are just downhill guys. Trotter, as your Mike, is a downhill player. I don't love him in pass coverage. I think you and me differ on that a little bit. I think you trust him more in pass coverage than I do. I don't trust him a lot in pass coverage. I think he's more of a downhill physical player. And obviously, Akers and Josephs, they're more pass rushers. They're not, their specialty is definitely not in coverage. So I'm not too worried about those guys. Again, Klubnik's going to have to throw the ball 40, 45 times. This team's not going to be able to run the ball, but I think with a guy like Branch, with a guy like Bell, Malachi Fields got a lot of screen targets in Notre Dame. These guys you can supplement the run game in a screen way. You're just not going to be able to run between the tackles.
It's going to be interesting. I think and we'll draw on the screen here really quick. I think the ideal thing for me is we're trying to neutralize what's going on here. I want Lee Hunter, to consume two gaps. I want him to find a way to get the center and the left guard. That leaves Keldrick Folk really here with the tackle, really, if you will, by himself, and he can do whatever. Because then I'm going to have Joseph's come around. That's how I'm going to combat it. Maybe your running back will be the one blocking, but that's going to leave over here Caden Curry really strong. He can do whatever. Gabe Lackas has to read this guy, if you will, in Max Clare, and I feel like Zakee Wheatley is the wild card player here because he's. I don't think you're going to need as much help on Branch here because, like I said, he's not going to go straight at you. I think he's going to go over the middle, and that's where, obviously Julian Neal is going to be able to do this. I think maybe we can bring Whitley on some of these packages kind of to go around the quarterback. Trotter's going to have to read it. I think what you're doing with Halsey is you're kind of reading either this way or that way, depending on how these two, Malachi Fields and Skylar Bell, how they kind of do in their route tree and their route formations. I think it will be super, super interesting to see. We will move on here to my 11 personnel offense. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to bring in Drew Aller. I'm going to bring in the guy who's the quarterback number 3 in this class for me. Consensus, he's a 98. The drop off between, Mendoza and Ty Simpson, it's big. I will say that, but I do trust Drew Aller out of any other quarterback in this class. Damon Claiborne, man, really good film study. Running back number 8 for me, 115 on the big board. He's coming in at 163 on the consensus. That is way, way, way too low for him. He, especially in this kind of lackluster running back room, he's going to shoot up. He's going to be able to be elusive back there and do a bunch of different things. Now, my wide receivers, I'm really excited to do this because you have 3 very different wide receivers in this room. You got Jeremy Bernard at Z, field side. He can run any route in the book. He can literally do anything. And then you got Malachi Fields, who's going to be the physical one, who is going to absolutely maul whoever your cornerback is. I don't know who your cornerback is. I haven't seen your corner yet. So that'll be interesting to see. I think Zachariah Branch is the wild card here. Obviously, you're going to move him in, out. You can move him across the field. You send him on go routes. I don't care what you do. I will say, though, that I have Eli Raridon as the inline tight end, not for anything in the passing game. It is because the tackles, and I'll admit it, my offensive line in terms of tackles is not the greatest. This offensive line class is not that great in terms of tackles. I need blockers, and that's why I took Eli Raridon at this spot right here. I'll move on to this offensive line. Yeah, I trust my tackles, but not in the way where I can stop some of your guys that you're going to bring on defense. I love Austin Barber as a sleeper offensive tackle number 8, number 79 on the board. 119 on the consensus. That's too low for him. Jude Bowery on the other side, 125 in the consensus, 74 for me, offensive tackle number 7. Super fun, super cool thing to have those 2 guys as my bookend tackles. I'm worried about Parker Brailsfield because I know who you're bringing with your draft guys, Tax. I know who you're bringing. I was worried about this one, but I took a chance on him, hoping that maybe Jenice Duker could help him. But yeah, Parker Brailsfield, I just like the physicality. He needs to be physical on the guy that you're bringing forward, especially if he's in the one eye, and I'm sure he's in the one eye. Jennings Dunker, I think that he is not going to be a tackle. I think he is going to be a right guard in this system. It's going to be super cool to see. Consensus has him a little bit higher than me. However, he's still – I rate him more as that interior offensive lineman. I feel like that's why. Keelan Rutledge, probably the strongest offensive lineman on this list for me, coming in at interior offensive lineman number 5. Consensus and the analysts are very similar, 58, 59. I feel confident that these guys can do enough to neutralize and that my offense, in terms of skill positions, can avail whatever this offensive line looks like.
All right, well, let's get into it because this is a monster of a defensive line. And it's really interesting looking at the weight classes here, right? So you've got Malachi Lawrence off the edge, right? That's probably a player that's around 245 to 260 range, right? Caleb Banks, that's 330. So you jump, 80 to 100 pounds there. And you go back down 40 pounds with Grayson Halton at that defensive tackle 3-tech spot. And then you go back up to 300 pounds at the edge rusher spot with Caleb Proctor. And so there's a lot of weight on this defensive front here. And I got guys that I think are really pass rush ready. I really want to get after the passer. Obviously, with my offensive line, I wanted to stop from the pass protection. I wanted you to be able to not rush the passer, and then I want to be able to get after you, right? And so I really like these edge rushers being able to go up against you. I would kind of wish I would have gone somewhere different than Proctor, just because I want to take more advantage of those tackles that you have. I think Lawrence can beat any one of those tackles, and I think Banks will give Brailsford. You have to double team him every single play. Like every single play, you have to double team him. And that means you're going to have to keep Raridan in, which means that I'm going to be in a nickel front with five DBs. Again, anyway, whatever. We'll talk about the linebackers. I love these linebackers so much. And a lot of you might look into this and say, oh, that's weird. Why do you have Deontay Lawson, the Sam, as your green dot, right? Watching Jacob Rodriguez's film, the way he works, he's totally smart enough to be a green dot in the NFL. I think he can absolutely do that. With him paired with a linebacker like Lawson, who is, I think, so unbelievably smart, the way Lawson thrived is because he had Justin Jefferson next to him in that Alabama linebacking core that was just a wrecker all the time. Jacob Rodriguez, that's the style he played. He's a much better Justin Jefferson. Turnovers, seeing and going, the way he works mentally and just think go in the pass coverage, that's what he's special at. Deontay Lawson is my field general in this offense. I think they fit different roles with the Mike and the Sam, but both of them together, I think, would be absolutely fantastic on this defense. And so getting into the secondary, Takari, I was smiling when you said Malachi Fields, and I'm a huge Malachi Fields guy. Takario Davis is built to a race Malachi Fields. He's 6'4", 205. That's what he does. He takes away your X receiver. He's not going to be able to guard Zachariah Branch. He can't do that. That's not the skill set he has. He can take away Malachi Fields. He is one of, if not the most physical corner in this class. Is he the best corner? Maybe not, but he is the best corner to stop Malachi Fields. He absolutely is. Igbinosun, I think, is the opposite of that. He is more, you're more physical, but not in the strength way, more physical in the balancing that with the speed aspect of things. I think he can guard Branch. I think he can guard Bernard. Chandler Rivers come out of the slot. I trust him to be able to be physical, match more of what those linebackers are doing while being able to hold his own in coverage. And then you got Kamar Ramsey and Kilgore roaming that back end. Ramsey is that free safety just hanging out over the top. Kilgore getting up and wrecking people. Anybody that comes over the middle, he's got his hands on them. Like this secondary, I think, is perfect to match what you brought on offense.
All right, well, we will see. You won't like this next slide in terms of the matchups between the corners because this is not going to work. This is not going to work, but you can, of course, flip it. We'll
Yeah.
ignore that for now. We're looking at the techniques, really. So you have Caleb Banks at a one eye. So I lined him up in that kind of package. And I mean, as you can see, as we write on it, I'm going to have to double Caleb Banks. I'm going to have to neutralize him with one of the more athletic disruptors in Jennings Dunker, who's going to have to be a monster and try his best because this is going to have to be a double team, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to bring. I mean, what are you thinking about bringing with your other defensive linemen?
Yeah, I absolutely think that somebody will be blitzing on most plays just because I love the odds that we have. Malachi Lawrence, I think, is a one-on-one winner against either one of these tackles. And I think you leave if Banks, the reason I love that Banks Halton combo so much is because Banks is going to take two of them. You have to guard, you have to double team Banks. And that means Grayson Halton gets a one-on-one every play. And that's what he's good at. He can't handle double teams. He doesn't have the weight class, but he is such a monster with his finesse game. And one-on-one, he wins all the time. He is a designated pass rusher. Like I talked about last year with Omar Norman Lott. That's his role. That's what he does. He is a pass rusher. And Grayson Holden, he's a pass rusher, which means it's a one-on-one every play with him. Malachi Lawrence, you're either doubling him with Raridan, and then I have a 5-on-3 in the back end, or you're going to have to take that running back off of him. Like something you're going to have to do there. And I just think the power profile of Proctor is going to help balance out that run game. This feels awesome with Rodriguez and Lawson coming down on the back end, being able to fill those holes, as well as the other five in nickels in the nickel coverage. Like, I don't know, man. This feels pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to look at. Are you going to plan to do anything with your safeties? Like, are they just going to play like kind of backfield zone, or are you going to bring them forward?
Yeah, I absolutely think Kilgore is going to need to play more in the box. That's kind of what you have to do in a nickel formation anyway, especially if you're going to run more of a man one. I'd love to run some sort of a cover three concept or a cover where there's a back end safety that's just roaming the whole time, and Ramsey can really have his time to just dissect the quarterback. And get Kilgore in that box. That's what he does. He's very physical, just a great athlete. And so I think he can erase Raritan anytime Raritan goes out. Funny enough, I think Raritan's a much better in the pass game than you do, even though he's on your team. So I think Raritan would be more of a problem than you're giving him credit for. But again, I'm not super, I actually am more worried about the run game here. But that's why I have Rodriguez and Lawson is they're so keen on that. They both fill gaps very, very well from that linebacker position. And Kilgore's a very good safety. So if that's the one thing on the secondary that you wouldn't love, like Sicario Davis is that right side with Davis and Kilgore can tackle really well. Those left three, I'm not super crazy about. Ramsey, hopefully, we're not getting him in a lot of isolated one-on-ones or something went really wrong when if the free safety's in an isolated one-on-one. Igmanoson, that's a weakness of his game, absolutely, is the tackling aspect. And Chandler Rivers, you have him there for more coverage. This is an outside corner in college that we're transitioning inside. And so that's also very much something I'd worry about.
So you're running a 4-2-5 in this scenario. I'll throw you a little wrench here, maybe make you think a little bit. Let's say the nickelback comes off the field, you're back to a 4-3. What linebacker are you bringing into this formation? I'm assuming it would be a middle linebacker, or you can move Rodriguez to the middle and you would bring in a Will. So what would you, in terms of some other sleepers on your mind, is there someone else that you could bring in into the sub package to
Yeah,
sub out Chandler
absolutely.
Rivers?
I think Harold Perkins is the first guy that pops into my mind for that will spot is because, obviously we have a Mike and a Salmon right now. I think that's where he's played just because of his weight class and the way I know he's not great in coverage. You and me talked about that last episode. That's kind of the glaring hole in his game right now. But I think if I was going to have to choose a sleeper, I think someone that would outperform their draft prospect ranking right now, Harold Perkins is someone that I think would do that.
Very interesting. I'll go back to the other kind of field that we had drawn. Yeah, I think for me, it would probably be, I think for me, since I am what am I, a 3-3-5, I would go to a 3-4. So I'd have four linebackers on the field. So I'm thinking that Joshua Josephs becomes just a left outside linebacker. Akaz is a right outside linebacker. And we're going to have two middle linebackers. I think that second one is going to be Bryce Boucher for me, true coverage linebacker. He would be super good with Josiah Trotter in this system, and I think that it could free up a lot of different things. I don't know what you would run instead of the slot guy because I want Kyle Lewis on Skylar Bell all day, any day of the week, especially if Josiah Trotter. If he's got to play a coverage role here, maybe in a cover zone, and then you bring down Kyle Lewis and you unleash him to whatever side. I mean, let's say you unleash him to this side and you have to like this is not if Lee Hunter can take two gaps, you got Keldrick Folk one-on-one with Tiedemann, and then you go, Joshua Joseph's rushing, and then you bring like Kyle Lewis. There's just no stopping that unless you have the running back there. But even then, you got two guys. I think it would be super interesting to see. We'll kind of slow it down and we'll kind of talk one more time about some of these guys. PDunn, out of your offense, is there one guy that you're looking at come Thursday of the draft or Friday? Because they're probably going to be day 2 and day 3 picks. Is there one guy on this offense for you that you think has a really good team fit and you would be really excited for them at the next level?
Yeah, no brainer. Easiest question ever. Max Clare being a Chief on day two to be the Kelsey replacement. Their skill set just matches so perfectly, right? And so we've talked about this before. There's two different athletes that you can have at the tight end receive. So you can have two different types of receive or tight ends, right? You can have a receiving tight end and a blocking tight end, right? Underneath that receiving category, you can have a Kenyon Sadiq, which is an athlete that's just a better athlete than everyone, or you could have a Max Clare or Travis Kelsey, which is way the way Travis Kelsey has won for a long time. And so I think he's a plug and play in that offense. I think he's an incredible route runner. I think you slim him back down to a good weight that he's comfortable with to be more of that route running aspect of things, less of the blocker that he was asked to be at Ohio State. I mean, that would be probably my favorite pick of the draft. That's probably my favorite spot for any player right now is Max Clare to the Chiefs.
What about Cade Klubnik? Do you think he can find a good home in this NFL draft?
It's a good question. A sneaky spot for me that I'm keeping an eye on is the Cardinals. I think that if they do end up getting their hands on someone that would be more of a bridge guy for a longer term, that you could see Cade ascend to that starting position over the next few years. I think that's somewhere. I'm trying to think of another spot that's kind of got an aging quarterback. I think that's the Cardinals are probably the spot that pops into my head first, as well as the Jets.
I just can't get Keldrick Folk and the Lions out of my head. I mean, it just has to happen. They're at 17. It would be in the consensus range for them. He is such a Lion. That would be unreal, but I do think he's going to go higher than that. I'm not sure where yet. Maybe the Cowboys. Cowboys at 12 could be in
That's
play.
what popped
I
into
don't
my head.
I don't think the Dolphins would do it at 11, but the Cowboys, he matches the profile of a Cowboy. And I don't know, like with them losing Micah Parsons like last year in the trade, and I don't know, I'm super intrigued to see where he goes. Looking a little bit more on my team. I talked about it once before, Gabe Backus, he reminds me of Derek Hall, the Seahawks. I think he can get a super cool role. I'm not looking anywhere specific. I think because he can do so many different things in this hybrid role. It's hard to pinpoint. I do think Kyle Lewis, though, is going to be able to impact from any nickel concept because of what Emil Wari did last year. He kind of revitalized the position for these nickel backs and these safety tweener box players. Kyle Lewis is going to be able to do a ton of different things. We've mocked Malik Muhammad so many places, so I'm not going to talk about him. It's super cool to see. I'll talk about Drew Aller, though. PDunn, do you think that Drew Aller has a spot?
Ooh, that's a good question. So you've talked about him to the Jets before, and I think that's a cool spot. I will say there's a little bit of Zach Wilson fever there, just because they're a very similar prospect with the arm talent and the range that they, the high ceiling that people see in them. Um, you just need so much development. I think the Vikings would be a really cool spot. The Colts could also be a really cool spot, post Daniel Jones. If they kind of want to continue the Anthony Richardson experiment without Anthony Richardson and continue to try and work on a developmental guy, I think that could be a cool spot. The Vikings is one I haven't really thought of, so I think that would be interesting to get that level of arm talent in that system.
Will we get a draft day trade? Well, what will the big draft day trade be in your opinion? Will it be with a player? Will it be a major trade up?
Hmm. I think the Cowboys are going to move. I think the Cowboys are going to move big. My final mock draft may have Jeremiah Love as a Cowboy. I know that there's conversations of, you could say, oh, well, the free agency signing, oh, well, they've never drafted a running back. I feel like Jerry's getting impatient, and I feel like they have two picks that they're going to be willing to use. And again, I will say it. I'll keep on saying it. Caleb Banks is going to go earlier than people are saying. He's just going to. There's too much raw talent there. He's too fantastic of a player. I genuinely have had many conversations thinking of why is he not three on my big board? Why is he not two on my big board? Or three? Three is kind of the ceiling just because of Love and Styles at one and two. Outside of those guys, the talent is off the charts, and you see some of these plays from him. I can't. He's a drug, man. Caleb Banks is a drug, and I can't quit it.
Where do you think his range will be in terms of the real draft come Thursday?
I think his range starts probably early to mid-teens. I think that someone's going to be willing to take a chance on him there. Again, don't rule out the Chiefs at 9. They've got that last first round pick, and his comp, is someone that they know pretty well. And so I think that if they could get him in that system, I think that would be a really cool spot for him.
I think we did a really good job with our all sleepers episode today. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's going to get busy around the office this next week because the NFL draft is on Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. on ESPN. It's going to be an absolute blast. You're going to see so much content from us next week. We plan on having our preview video on Monday. Then we are going to release our 4-round final individual mock drafts on Tuesday. The one you've all been waiting for, the Wednesday joint mock draft, the one that started us all off 1 year ago. And then Thursday, we are going to have live reactions on the reels. And who knows, we may post a reaction video, but we will be back there once the draft ends on Monday to record our snap count video. And then we will roll into division draftables. We thank you guys so much for tuning in.